Mahomes at bay.
The Tampa Bay Bucs, Super Bowl 55.
Hello and welcome back to another edition of the Bucs Banter Podcast. I am your host, Collin Hallboom, trying to sort out our situation here. There we go. Sorry about that for anyone watching on YouTube. But we are back, like I said, for another edition. This is our 70th episode, our Robert Hainesieth episode of the Bucs Banter Podcast. We're going to talk about my behind-the-scenes experience for the Bucs-Bengals game. I was covering the game for Bucs Game Day, Sports Illustrated, and had a pretty awesome experience in doing so. Was privy to a lot more all access type of shit than I had expected. So that was pretty special. Obviously, the game was absolutely bananas. So we're going to talk about that plenty. We're going to talk about the upcoming Christmas Day game versus the Arizona Cardinals, what the Buccaneers need to do to secure the NFC South, because that is anything but secure at this point. And we'll even talk about some of the Pro Bowl results that just came out. I am joined, as always, by my co-host Scott Capron and Bodan Yard. How we feeling, fellas? How we doing?
Feeling good, man. Congrats. I think dream come true. I think when you started this whole Bucs Banner podcast, the idea of going to a game was like, oh, that'd be cool. But to actually do it and do it at the level that you did it at, inspiring stuff, my friend. So thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're getting big timed a little bit, push back to 8:30 for the big journalist that needed to do. I'm just kidding. Actually, it's my fault why we're pushed back. But let's just get into it, man. For behind the scenes for everyone, the three of us have tried not to talk since Collin did the game on Sunday, so we can save it for the pod and get as much get as much info in it as possible on here and not just via text, right? So, let's get into it, Boom.
Yeah, so even Bo calling it a dream come true, that even seems a little far-fetched. I wouldn't say my dreams were that ambitious. It was more, when we started this up. So I didn't expect to actually end up getting credentialed and getting to experience what I did. 2 red-eye flights later, and I'm back, and I'm ready to talk about it. It was pretty unreal. Heading down to Tampa, flew out of Buffalo. Anyway, so on game day, we watched that incredible World Cup game, the best soccer game I've ever seen in the morning. Obviously, I assume you guys watched that also, or I know you did. We were chatting. And then so I head down to the game. I was there about 3 hours early because I just wanted to soak it all in. So sorted that out, got my credentials, went in there. I've made my way to the press box, which is pretty incredible at Raymond James Stadium. It's pretty sick. There's a carvery, there's someone carving up steak, all this immaculate food. I took me way too long to find my seat, where my seat was, because they had name tags for every media member. So I asked the guy 3 times, so wait, what does this mean? Where is it?
You're like, can I just sit in Darlington's seat or what? What's going on here, guys?
Yeah, exactly. So I got settled in, and my fellow writer for Bucs Game Day, Caleb Skinner, we had met up with him the day before and crushed some beers and watched sports. Him and cousin Wani, and we all hit it off. We had a great time, so it was cool to have already met him. But he was running late, so I got to do this on my own, and I kind of liked that, actually, getting to explore it on my own. Felt more, I don't know.
Nice.
Yeah, individualized experience. So I just started wandering around the stadium, checking everything out. And then, I was tried to get down onto the field, and I couldn't because I didn't have access technically to the field. But then
So what did it say on your credential? Is there a little like a punch for field level, or how does that work? Let's get into the nitty gritty here.
It says, I have it here.
Okay.
It says media interview, or Collin Hallboom, Bucs Game Day, Sports Illustrated /Fan Nation, media interview, general service pass, Bucs-Bengals season week 15.
Okay.
Yada yada.
Sick.
Yeah. So, but anyway, then I see this this group of 10 people who look like family of the players walking down the stairs, because I'm just wandering around the 100 level of the stadium. So I just see them going towards this roped off field access area. And I literally just kind of hustled up through the aisle and just stabbed in front of one of them, jumped in front of one of them, and just walked in with them. Okay, I think it was Tryon Trainka's family.
Nice.
And some other people.
You kind of look like a Tryon.
Yeah, you look like a
show. Like yeah, if I had to guess, like, so that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so then I couldn't believe this guy let me in because another guy had already not let me in. Like he was the guy on the other side, which was actually the Bengals side before that. He was very rigorous with his evaluation of each person and they're wearing obviously similar passes, but with different content, I guess, different credentials. So then I was there.
Fair, on your resume under special skills, it does say get into places that you're not allowed in, right? So extensive experience.
I've seen you do this.
To be fair,
countless times.
Kind of playing to your strengths, right?
Yeah, it's sort of like the pinnacle of my secret talent of getting into places I'm not supposed to be. I'd be lying if I said that didn't cross my mind. But it was probably the simplest sneak in I've ever had. I just well,
you put in the hours. You know what I mean? You put in the hours, so the game time just feels like practice. That's just called dedication.
Yeah. So it's a roped off area and right along the sideline of the end zone, up to like the, I don't know, 10-yard line or whatever. And it's right beside the Bucs tunnel. So once I saw that, I just worked my way right up to the front of the rope and I stood there for an hour and a half watching players come out slowly, trickle out, warming up, run out of the tunnel. And I just really took that in because that was so cool. And then I was texting Caleb and I'm like, he's like, yo, I just got here. Like, where are you, man? I'm up in the press box. I'm like, yo, I'm on the field. He's like, what? He's like, bro, we've been trying to get down on the field every game this year. They won't let us down there. He's like, how did you do that? And I was just like, don't worry about it. Like, I'll see you. I was like, I'll see you when I see you, man. So I got a bunch of pictures and videos. I tweeted out a couple, but, registered a lot of it with my eyes. And in my mind, that was unreal. Just seeing Brady warming up, like coming over to Jensen, taking snaps from Jensen, watching Godwin put his work in, and seeing players who would come over and mingle with the people who were in this section. Godwin's a man. Watching him works his ass off, and then he comes over and you could just tell he's a sweet dude, to his wife. And then it says no autographs. He signs a bunch of autographs for people who were there. It was really cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Anyway,
and totally expected at the same time.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Did Brady look huge?
Yeah, way taller than I realized.
Yeah, that's what That's what I would have thought too. That's crazy.
Yeah, way taller than you realize on TV.
Yeah.
So anyway, and then it got close enough where I'm like, all right, time to head up. I'd planned to hit up the Bucs store and all this stuff, but I was happy to replace my plans by just standing on the field a few feet away from a lot of these guys. William Golston's another guy who deserves a shout out for being super engaging and just cool.
Nice.
Bucko Bruce walked right beside me too. That was cool.
Crazy.
Yeah. So then I get up there into the press box where I'd already settled in. I'd already had a couple plates under my belt before I walked down to the field. Failed to mention that. So I got up there, grabbed another plate, linked up with Skinner. Still had 20 minutes or so. So knowing me and the social fiend I am, I went up and introduced myself to Jenna Lane. I talked to who else I talked to? Jeff Darlington of NFL Network. Jenna Lane, I assume anyone watching this knows who that is. She's the primary ESPN Bucs reporter. Darlington, who's a big wig for NFL Network. Sarah Walsh, also with NFL Network.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, man. There was some good coverage, right? It was the CBS game, the Romo Nance game. And yeah, then the game started and it was amazing because the Bucs were firing. They looked fantastic. And obviously, this ended up being this game being the ultimate tale of two halves. It felt more like two games. First half, a day game. Bucs looked phenomenal. I was convinced they were back, officially. And we'll talk in more detail about what we saw on the field, I think. Yeah. But yeah, and then the sun sets at halftime and the most disastrous second half in the history of football took place.
But okay, so let's go back to kickoff in the press box for a second. Okay, so you're in the press box the whole game.
Yeah, whole game.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And
are you writing up there?
Are people?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. So everyone's very professional up there, and that took a concerted effort by me, as you can imagine, to try and project myself as an impartial, objective journalist. But
So
thankfully,
you weren't
Caleb and I,
screaming that you had the over on Rashad White?
no, no,
No.
and based on how much I had, you'd think I'd be screaming something, but it didn't even really bother me at all or register because it was just,
I figured. Yeah.
yeah. But so we were at the third row. There's 3 rows, and it stretches quite a long ways. And being at the third row is nice though, because no one's behind you. You still have a great view of the game. It's not like it's compromised by any means. So you can kind of, if you like do one of these, like, oh, or like, yeah, like no one's behind you seeing you act a fool, right? Because the other 2 rows are in front of you. So that was nice. And yeah,
Did you
everyone's
see anybody in front of you doing that?
no.
Oh, okay.
I think they're pretty seasoned for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean, there's like, oohs and ahs and all that, but certainly no one cheering. And yeah, Scott, to answer your question, like everyone's got a laptop up, of course. Some of these guys are a little more old school, taking notes. There's some like sound guys. So I'm not sure what they were doing, but the majority of people I saw were journalists. Darlington, Sarah Walsh, they weren't like taking notes because they're not necessarily writing a column about the game. So they're just sick. They just kind of chill and they're shooting the shit with each other, watching the game in and out. But yeah, so then I'm just taking notes. Like I probably wasted time taking way too many of detailed notes compared to I do it when I do the recap at home. I was doing the recap. Caleb was doing the live in-game updates, and Logan was doing the live tweeting. Logan's our publisher at Bucs Game Day. Shout out to you, Logan. Love you, bro. Not as much as I love Antoine Winfield, though. Not as much as I love Antoine Winfield, man.
Oh man,
Yeah.
That's my guy forever now.
That was our guy.
Yeah.
Sounds like a Carabana trip is in his future.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know if you guys want to talk about the game or you want to talk about after, because like it's like the after was even crazier than anything that happened.
Yeah,
at that point.
no, let's talk about after that. Okay, so like
I feel like we got to talk about the game though. We got to get over the game, right? Like kind of set the stage for why after was so crazy, right?
Yeah, but everyone already knows why it was so crazy after. Everyone knows.
Yeah, but not from our point of view.
Yeah.
Whatever that means.
Well, okay, so sure, we'll talk football about it and you win.
Yeah, sorry. I forgot. Maybe this isn't a football podcast. I've signed up for a football podcast.
All right, that's fair. That's fair. That's a good way to break up the behind the scenes part of it. But yeah, I thought it was like a near perfect first half from the Bucs, man. The offense spreading the ball around, moving the ball downfield with ease. The defense was exceptional all game as far as I'm concerned. And I'd be happy to talk more about that. But that I talked about the tale of two halves or 2 games. I mean, let's talk about the first 5 drives, 5 out of 6 drives in the second half. Okay. 5 offensive drives, 5 turnovers in their own territory. And I'm going to just recite what they were. I jotted them down exactly. Botched fake punt, which of course was a huge thing.
Swung the game,
swung the locker room later. That was at the Buccaneers 16-yard line. Okay. And of course, Bucs are up 17-3 because the Bengals had squeezed out a field goal at the end of the half. 17-0 Tampa Bay led. So botch fake punt. Burrow takes advantage. I mean, he's way too good. I couldn't believe how well the Buccaneers were making his life hard all game. They were so good. Well, that first half especially. Anyway, botch fake punt on the 16. Interception on the 31. This is all in Bucs territory, by the way. Again, fumble on the 13. Fumble on the 39. And then an interception on the 44. It was almost like you'd think they were throwing the game, the Bucs. Like literally, you think they were shaving points, but it would have been too obvious that they were doing it for that to be a realistic hypothesis or like conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe what I was watching when one was happening after another. Like at halftime, I'm like bragging to people. I'm like, yeah, you got to have me back here more often, folks. Like, and they're all like, yeah.
So dude, yeah, like watching it from home.
Like, yeah,
like,
no.
Yeah.
No, they're like, just wait, Rook.
Watching it on TV, it honestly felt like they had no idea that it was going to be filmed. Like they were like, oh, it's a practice. This is like turnovers don't count. Who cares? Like, we'll just run it again. Like it felt like they were just like, it just didn't make any sense. It didn't make any sense the way that those turnovers were happening. And like when they were happening in the drives, like Insane.
It was nuts. And I want to just call it like a crazy, like Freaky Friday thing. But the way this Bucs team and season has gone, it's like, no, that you can't give them the benefit of referring to it as some crazy twisted fate or luck. Like their lack of execution throughout the season has been the primary narrative, ultimately, in addition to what I think we've been hitting on every week. I'm opening with the fact that the defense or the offense just doesn't give the defense a chance to win games when the defense is doing everything they need to win games. And this was yet again an even more glaring example of that than we've seen all year. Just like they keep raising the bar, the defense, and the offense keeps lowering it even lower. But they teased us with that first half. I thought Leftwich actually was doing a great job in the first half.
It was so good. Like the play action and the lack of like the aggression on first down, like everything was working well. The run game was sporadic. Even I think Romo actually said the run game is unpredictable right now. Like this is exactly how the Bucs need to play. And like we've been saying that for weeks now.
It was unbelievable. I'm going to read a few tweets from Jenna Lane that just kind of talk about and it's what we've been asking for, motion, play action, all that stuff. But you're right, Bo. I'm glad you said that because he kept them guessing. It was fantastic. It was so nice to watch. The Bucs ran 11 play action plays out of 40 in the first half against the Bengals. So a really like solid high percentage there. And on those plays, Brady was 8 for 11 for 115 passing yards. And then they ran a total of 3 in the second half. Obviously, they didn't have as many opportunities, but even then he was 2 for 3 for 21 yards. They used motion for a season high 27 plays in the first half. Brady 11 of 14 for 153 and 2 TDs on those. Second half, there were only 13. Yeah. I'm not even going to bother with the second half, I guess, because those numbers are just going to be fucked.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, but definitely a better job in the first half. In 17, that's a doable point total. You know what I mean? Like you can get to 31 then from that, let's say, pretty easily, and that's going to win you most games. So that first half was very promising for sure.
Yeah, I mean that's the gist of it. It's that the motion and the play action and keeping the defense on their toes and spreading the ball around. Different guys making plays, and offensively, obviously, it was great to see Mike Evans heavily involved in that first half.
Yeah.
So
was it like as weird on TV as it was up in the press box, like seeing the all 22 and realizing like, why are they just not doing any motion anymore? Like what happened? Like that was it felt like it was in every play in the first half.
Sorry, Collin.
And then they're just like, no more of those plays.
I feel like they didn't have a chance.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say go, Scott.
Sorry. I was just going to say to piggyback off that, was there any general kind of like vibe from the press box being like, yeah, this, why not this? Or is that not really how it goes?
No, it was the only general, it was very subdued throughout. Like they're pretty professional, I guess, these journalists, at least in the press box. And, so no, it was just kind of like a lot of like, oh my God type moments when shit started to hit the fan and that those turnovers started piling up in an unprecedented fashion. 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, then 5.
5 is just an insane.
Yeah, you can't win. You lost the game. You lost the game at 4. You lost the game at 3.
Couldn't believe it.
3. Yeah.
It was nuts. It was absolutely bonkers, batshit, whatever you got to call it. It was unbelievable. But again, I do want to man, it's so unfair too that like that many points go on the scoreboard. Like the Bucs did so good on D, man, and like it wasn't just it was the scheme. Like schematically, Bowles was ready. Like he called an incredible game because let's not forget how shorthanded they were on defense. I was scared, man, going up against this Bengals offense who are rolling right now. Oh, dude, they're missing Shaq Barrett, of course, Vea, Jamel Dean, Carl Nassib, and Winfield for a lot of the game, who was in and out of the lineup, already playing hurt. But I thought in terms of individual players, guys who stood out to me on D was like Carlton Davis and Levante David were unreal.
Dude, Carlton Davis He is Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase was looking at, like, if I was a corner, this is what I would be. And that was that is the best way I could put it, was that was a 1-to-1. There is no advantage here for the Bengals. Like,
you're right.
It really felt like you're going to get, like, you're Jamar Chase. You're going to make some plays, obviously. But, like, Carlton Davis was with him step to step every single time they lined up across.
Played
Literally.
so well.
And the cool thing was, Carlton was more or less shadowing Chase, which he doesn't always do. But they again, and that you got to give that to Bowles, right? Because that was part of his plan. But Carlton, he lined up on Chase 33 out of 40 snaps in the game. On those plays, okay, he held him to just 3 receptions for 32 yards on 8 targets.
It's
like
nuts.
Jamar fucking Chase.
Nobody does that. And the physicality where Jamar Chase usually bullies corners. That's the thing that he does. Is like, I'm a great route runner, but I also just, like, I'm so physically imposing.
And you're bang on there.
Davis was all over that. He's like, yeah, I'm physically imposing too. I love that. Let's do it.
You're bang on. You're so bang on, because, like, John Ledyard, who's so great at understanding and articulating the intricacies of the sport and player evaluation. And he's always said and talked about how Carlton, like, this is a tough scheme for Carlton Davis to be at his best. Like, he's tremendous, but he is a press man corner. That's where he believes he would be, like, elite and viewed as such. And in this game, he really got to show off that physicality you're talking about. And I love that how you made this comparison. Like, he's kind of like Chase on D. Like, he sure as hell looked like it.
Yeah. It felt like it. It felt like that was the same. That was like the same body. It was like a simulation almost of the same body being like, can you do this against the same, like a ghost? It's insane.
And imagine. I'm just gonna say, imagine having a 14-point lead in this game at the half and limiting Jamar Chase to those numbers, and they still lose by that many. Like, it's almost impossible to comprehend, right? Like, it had to have been a high variance thing, like that many turnovers, obviously, but, like, come on. Sucks.
Yeah, and we haven't even, like, it was nice to see Carlton get that pick too. Like, he's more of a pass breakup, just like beyond dudes, but to have a nice diving pick to steal momentum early in the game, that was a huge play too at the time anyway. And in terms of those, like, according to Next Gen Stats, 5 of the 8 targets that Chase saw under Carlton's watch came on tight window throws. So even though he got those targets, Davis is all up in them.
Was all over
like
him. Yeah.
And in terms of measuring the shadow Next Gen Stats, like that DB wide receiver matchup that they'll focus on specifically when they're matched up, ultimately that was that was the second best performance by any DB in a matched up on a wide receiver, and that wide receiver is Jamar Chase. Just to speak to how
it's nuts. Yeah, the game, amazing. Like, absolute game ball goes to Carlton Davis. I know Levante was cool. Didn't Levante had a horrible penalty though too, right?
Well, it negated a 20+ yard sack by Devin White. So part of me, my first thought is like, God damn, like, that's Devin White's got to be pissed if he hadn't negated so many great plays of Levante's over the last couple years.
No, right.
Probably right. But no, that hurt. The 2 best Bucs defensive players in the game, in my opinion, was Carlton and Levante, and they had 2 huge penalties that spoiled third down stops in that second half. But I mean, and then Tryon Shoyinka, man, like a depleted pass rush all the way across the board. He finally, was really making an impact, and a lot of fans have been calling him out, wanting to see more. He played really well. And then some of the, like, reserve depth tackles like Nunez Roches and Will Golston were good. And Devin White was good. He wasn't stacking up tackles, but he was playing really well. Fitting into the scheme and not trying to do too much. And God, that sack, like, was amazing. To see that call back really hurt. You have a great
But that's what happens to bad teams or mediocre teams, right? Like, of course. I'm sorry, and I don't mean to pile on, but that just sums up the Bucs season. You know what I mean? And then, like you said about the Bucs defense, it sucks that, the point total was that high for Cincinnati, but anyone who watched the game knows that they played so much better than that, right? And they were put in impossible spots. Yeah. And an offense as good as Cincinnati. Now, granted, did they score on every one of those turnovers? I can't remember exactly, but credit to them. They did really punch it in when they got the opportunities, right? But you can only play defense for so long in that league, like, and really stop a good offense. And it just, comes down to bad mistakes on defense, like those penalties, and then turnovers on offense, it's going to kill you. And hey, the Bengals are really good, by the way. Are the Bengals like the 4th best team in the league or something like that? Let's say, like, so,
They're
credit to them.
I think they could beat in the league.
Yeah. And they beat the Chiefs 2 weeks ago. So, credit where it's due there. It's just, fuck, that would have been a nice one, man. Like, they finally did stuff in the first half. Like,
like great stuff. They looked like, if they were operating like that, they're fantastic. They could beat anyone. But
it was what it felt like to me was like it was a Seahawks game on steroids. It was like the hyper, like you were even better than you were against the Seahawks in the first half against the Bengals this week, and even worse than you were against the Seahawks in the second half than against the Bengals. Like it was like the polar, like this is the extremes of those two halves.
It was worse than a Jameis bad half.
Yeah. Are we getting to that right away? Because that was, for the people that are waiting for Tom Brady to fall off a cliff, that was like their, you see that's it. That's what we're talking about right there. That was
so annoying.
It was a horrible game from Tom Brady, admittedly.
For sure it was. But for Tom Brady, he's a guy who you can call it fucking fluky. Like
exactly,
he has the right to call it fluky in terms of like 2 fumbles lost. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't get that take. I don't get the people coming at Brady, man. I just don't.
No.
Well, they know that they're
like
cringe already.
You don't know what you're watching if you're calling him the problem in any capacity. He could have thrown 8 fucking interceptions. Like he's doing more than he needs to do. And he had a tough half that sucked. Would have been like, of course, but like Burrow, Levante David, I think it was Levante, sacked Burrow, and he fumbled the ball, but it popped right back into him, right?
Yeah.
There was a tremendous play made by the defensive tackle on the Bengals. I forget which one it was. Was it BJ? No. Anyway, and the ball gets scooped up. It was a hell of a play. Like that right there is quite a swing that can happen. That's football, though.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, we don't.
But
fans
is crazy. But just to speak to the larger like narrative of the season, it's like they had 5 turnovers in the second half of this game. And I don't feel like it's been an outrage on Twitter or anything necessarily. It's just been like, oh, yeah, they did it again. Like any other team that has 5 turnovers in a game, let alone a half, like people would be tearing their hair out, right? Like this is insane. And it's just kind of like, the Bucs did it again.
But dude, I don't know what, I guess I wonder, like, did you watch the game again on TV after you were there, Collin, or no?
No, my PVR is broken at home.
Oh God!
So I was watching like local coverage. Like I more wanted to see the local news coverage. Yeah. They have like a 30-minute Bucs show like on their local news station. Like
nice,
cool shit like that I was watching. I was trying to see if I could see myself in the locker room and anything.
Yeah. Well, dude, like watching it, it honestly felt like every time the ball was on the ground, it was like, yeah, of course they turned it over again. Like it felt like once the momentum, like after the fumbled punt, which I think we got to like kind of break down a little bit more. After that happened, it was just like, yeah, there's no way this is a loss. Like they're going to like, this is how it starts with this team. It just felt like we've seen this before almost, even though we haven't seen it to this level. It felt like so familiar.
Like if it was to happen to anyone to that much of an extreme, it would be this 2022 Tampa Bay 100% thing, right?
Yeah.
Now I have what I feel like is a hot take based on how a lot of people are talking, because people like to point it then at that botched fake punt. Like, what is Todd Bowles doing? I am fine with the fake punt as much as in hindsight that seems ridiculous in your own zone. No, this is what we want from him. That's putting your foot on their throat. Like that's what it is, man. On 4th and short like that at an unexpected time. Like, Sean Payton onside kick in the Super Bowl worked. Like, so it's so easy and lazy to come at Bowles for that. That was Gio Bernard acknowledged as much. He made a mistake. Bowles, you could tell, was frustrated because he was the one guy who didn't know or somehow miscommunicated that play was Gio Bernard, and he was the guy who needed to catch the ball and get a couple yards. So it's unfortunate, big time. But they had plenty of time after that. It was the accumulation of errors that killed the team. But that play was wild, and I'm okay with the play. I'm not okay with the result. That sucks, but I'm okay with it. And they had plenty of chances to rebound from there. They were still winning. Like, it became 17-10 at that point with the ball.
Couldn't agree more. We've kind of come after Bulls for a lot. Obviously, don't care. I loved it. Good for him. Actually showing some balls in a spine. So yeah, just sucked that it didn't work.
Can't have it both ways, Bucs fans. You can't.
Yeah.
You can't hate on him for being too conservative and old school, and then he does something like that, and then you say, "What a dumbass move!" Like, no, okay, that's ultimate keyboard warrior shit.
What I hate about it is that I feel like that was the indication that the plays were going to become really conservative right after that, and like I hate that he made the right call. The wrong thing happened, and it was like he just kind of clammed up, and he's just like, you know what? No more motion, no more play action. We're
That's
running
not
our
Bulls,
stuff.
though.
I know, but like it feels that.
Well,
way.
it
feels that way when you're watching
point.
the game because you're like, okay, he tried to do something unpredictable and it didn't work out, and now all of a sudden he's like, oh god, I can't do that anymore. Like, why did I start doing? Why was I listening to these guys? They're idiots. Let's just do it my way again. And it's just like. It sucks. It absolutely sucks as like a guy who like is kind of cheering for this team every week and wants to see them play good football and sees them do the right thing, and then immediately after that, it feels like they're just like, we're closing the part of our playbook that's cool and good, and we're just running the same old vanilla stuff, and we don't care if, like, not that we don't care if we lose, but we might lose because we're calling the game this way.
Yeah. So. I mean, the game itself, the rest was history. Joe Burrow is far too talented to take advantage. Bucs D was tremendous. They had not a hope in hell of overcoming that sort of disadvantage. So I'm not even going to judge them on that. It's a shame, like I said, that they have that kind of points against them. Burrow had like 200 yards passing and 4 touchdowns. Like, I've never seen a game gifted so much to the opponent. I don't think it was truly unbelievable. Bucs shut down the run. They made Joe Burrow's life hard. A lot of that was Bulls. With getting really creative in terms of disguising like their stunts when they were blitzing and stuff. Burrow's so good at that generally and staying calm and diagnosing it. They had like delayed blitzes. There were various ways that I believe were reflective of a really cool game plan that a bunch of players, not normally starters, did a fantastic job of executing and playing hard. And that's one thing Todd Bowles said in the press conference after right away is, no, this isn't a matter of playing hard. The guys played hard, and they did play hard. It just was a real shitty way to go. So once it ended, I guess we'll hop back on the like behind the scenes aspect of this. If you guys, unless you want anything else specific about the game to talk about.
I just wanted to say, like, no Higgins and no Boyd, right? It was really a great time to get a quality win and have some momentum. And I know they're not out of it for their division and anything, but like they would have taken a stranglehold given the fact that, Atlanta and Carolina lost on Sunday, but
supposed to be. We thought it might be no Higgins and no Boyd. They both end up playing.
Right. Oh, right. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah,
True.
Yeah.
But like not at 100% anyway, right?
Yeah.
So yeah.
Everyone got a touchdown though playing that second half.
Yeah, that's true.
So as soon as the game ended, part of it was challenging, I think, because like it's quite a mad dash after the game for all the journalists who, and a lot of them, you're trying to submit work, right, to get it out as soon as possible. So I was chipping away at the recap. As I mentioned, it was like a 1,400 word document, which is longer than it should be or normally would be, but I was just like very detailed in my notes, like I said. And I've gotten used to the process of that, obviously just watching games on TV. But when I'm at home, I have time to like live tweet a little bit about the game. I wasn't doing that. I was just straight writing in that. So I fired that off. I followed Caleb because he's showing me the ropes. He was my tour guide and he did a fantastic job. Shout out Caleb Skinner at CHS Knoll, I think, on Twitter, my guy. So we head down in the press elevator, takes me down to the tunnel. You rush into the post-game press conference room, whatever you call it. And we got to hear from Bowles. Bowles came out and then Brady, and that was it. And this is the one thing that was unfortunate is the whole post-game. If the Bucs had won or continued to play in any capacity after that first half, say they grinded it out and won, I think we would have gotten some awesome sound bites. And like, I think we would have got more time with Tom and more time with the coach and all that, and just more willing participants in interviews. Of course, I mean, of course that would be the case. That was a gut-wrenching loss for them, embarrassing, in fact. So it's hard to get a question off for Tom, and I was kind of just sussing out the process, watching how they do it, and like people like Jenna Lane of ESPN, Greg Auman of The Athletic, Rick Stroud, they pretty much dominate those questions going back and forth. They just say, Todd, and they fire off their question, and then it's the next one. So I'm like watching, and then I'm just like, eventually I'm like, screw this. I'm getting a question in here, baby. Like this Tom Brady. Like, so then I'm like, Tom. So I'm like psyching myself up. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to ask. And then, because I was also trying to tweet a little bit, but anyway, so then I'm about to say it, and he goes, thanks very much, and walked off. And I was just like, no.
Oh no.
Yeah, I almost Bobby Boucher'd him from like where I was sitting.
What were you gonna ask him?
I was just gonna. I was trying to. I wanted to take a more positive route and just ask him about whether or not the obvious chemistry was a reflection of the game plan or strategy, or if that was just what the defense was giving him in terms of all the targets and completions to Evans in the first half, something along those lines.
Nice.
Thought you were gonna ask him about the dating scene in Tampa.
Yeah.
No.
Who'd you bring to the game, Tom?
Yeah,
Exactly.
Lots of rumors about that. So then everyone just gets up and follows Brady in because they knew he was the last one talking. And then we're right into the locker room. And this is where shit got crazy because I'm so in awe. I mean, I'm not big time in this shit. Like, I'm not downplaying how significant this was for me. I'm a lifelong Bucs fan. Like, this is my podcast. Like, fuck that. I'm a fan. I've been a diehard fan my whole life living in Canada. So, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like, it was cool covering the game. Like, it was fucking incredible. Like, unbelievable. It was the coolest thing in my life. Well, maybe.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for here, Boom.
Yeah, it was unreal.
Jesus.
So as soon as I walk into the locker room, I'm just like, whoa, like I'm seeing like half naked Will Golston right beside me. And it just happened so fast. Not the Nate, like just like the players I watch and study and write about so much. And it was just all at once, a rush. And then before I have a moment to process what I'm looking at, like I'm just analyzing the setup of the room. I'm also trying to suss out how this works in terms of getting commentary for players. But I see, and I'm disrupted by this noise of like yelling right there to my left. And I look to my left, and it's right in the middle of the dressing room. And it's Rick Stroud, Greg Auman, Jenna Lane, and all those regular cast of characters surrounding Gio Bernard. And of course, this whole incident has since gone very much viral and been talked about all across, the networks, in terms of like, how is it appropriate to communicate or handle players? What are you entitled to in the media? How was that handled? And it's crazy seeing something that I watched the whole thing go down right beside me. So that in itself is kind of trippy. And my interpretation in that moment was I was blown away by how aggressive I don't want to say all of them, but it felt that way because it was a little mob. So like there was a lot of people raising their voices when Gio Bernard made it clear he didn't want to talk or he was heading elsewhere. It all happened simultaneously, and it did feel very abrasive. And Greg Auman has since rescinded a comment that he made, or not rescinded, but apologized for because it was not appropriate. Jenna Lane took a bit of heat. I thought she was doing fine. Her voice is just a bit louder. She was just saying, "You've been injured, Gio. That's why." Because it all stemmed from Gio saying, "Well, y'all don't want to talk to me all year. Why? Like now, all of a sudden, you want to talk to me, right?" And she's saying, "Well, Gio, you were injured." So like her, I didn't have an issue with how she handled it by any means. Greg Auman saying, "Well, you haven't done anything this year, Gio," is inappropriate, and he said as much. Like that's just not right. And from anything I've seen from Greg Auman, that's also out of character. I was a little surprised. I didn't even catch it live. It was just more the noise that I caught. But that was that. That was that. I mean, it's been talked about a lot. Do you have any questions specifically about my locker room experience so far, Bob?
No, I got a quick one on that. Is like, was there any indication that they were going to go after Gio when you were in the press box? Like when that play happened, did it seem like they were like, was there any reaction to being like, oh, this one, like, or did it feel like somebody watching the game texted them and was like, Jenna, Greg, you better get Gio and figure out what happened there?
Great question. And no, it didn't at all. And what cued it was the way Todd Bowles handled the press conference, because that's where the questions came in. Because for any viewers, we didn't know, was this an intentional fake punt? Was it a botched? Was it a botched snap or a botched fake punt? So that was the first question, understandably, after the game about the play. And ultimately, Todd Bowles put that on Gio and said, the question was, what happened on the punt fumble? And then Todd Bowles, man, he looked so pissed and defeated when he came out there. Like, I was looking down at my phone, and then it got super quiet. And I like looked down, and then I looked up, and he'd been sitting there, like standing there, and I didn't even hear him come in. It was crazy. But
it sounded like
weird.
It was
the whole
eerie.
Bucs versus Bucs comment that he made. That was like, you could feel it. Like, even reading it, you could feel like he's so pissed.
Yeah, so I could literally feel in the air before he said a word, is ultimately what I'm saying. It was the weirdest thing. But he said Gio just didn't catch it. They asked if he knew the play. He said he knew the play, or he didn't catch it. That's what happened, and that's all he wanted to say. So he obviously felt it was a very big play. We've already talked about the play itself. Todd Bowles was really putting himself out there, so that reflects poorly on him to a lot of people that it doesn't work out. But more importantly, to give Todd all due respect, I mean, he's upset they lost, and that was a big turning point, right? Brings it within a touchdown early in the second half. So once Todd Bowles had identified it was Gio's error there, Gio just didn't catch it. That naturally, I think, in these savvy veteran reporters' minds, cued them. That's who we talk to next. As soon as we get out of here, we're gonna. Bowles is pinning it on Gio. Let's see what Gio says. And I do also, the one other thing I'd like to say about that interaction is I thought Gio handled it really well, man. Like, he's a pro, and at first he was making this face like bewildered. Like, are you serious right now?
He was pissed.
Yeah, and I showed you guys a video I have, right, of it. Like, I have a little video of part of it.
Yeah.
I missed the very beginning of the discourse, and at first I'm like, wow, his face looks like this, but then he just stepped up, and he said bare minimum, but he owned it, said it was his fault in as few of words as possible, and moved on. And
dude, how did we introduce the second half? Did you not just say there was 5 turnovers in the 6 possessions? If I was Gio, I'd be like, why do you care about the one of the 5?
Yeah,
I was the first
lead,
one.
by the way.
We were up 17 or whatever when this happened.
Yeah.
Why do you care?
I agree. I agree.
Why are you talking to me?
Yeah. So for more behind the scenes insight, for more detailed in the locker room drama observations, make sure you stay connected to the Bucs Banter YouTube channel. Make sure you're following Bucs Game Day for all your Buccaneers content. Continue.
No doubt.
Full disclosure.
Go ahead.
I had never heard Bernard talk. And when he didn't have like a bit of an accent, I was like, oh, okay, who is this? Like, who is that really?
What, do you think he was Italian?
No, I knew he wasn't like from Italy or anything. I think he went to North Carolina. I know in my head, I'm sure he had zero accent, but when he first started talking, I was like, oh, no accent at all.
What are you talking to me for, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, it's me at a fumble. But yeah, no, I couldn't help but think that. And then I kind of laughed to myself, like, wow, you're an idiot. And then I just kept watching the video. So I just wanted to let you guys know.
And so when that blew over, what I quickly learned was the entire mob of media mob seems to zero in on one player, and whether they all have an understanding of why it's important to get that player at that particular time, like how they all knew to go to Gio right away. They all went to Devin White next, or maybe it's just because it's a player of a certain magnitude who seemed like they know is willing to talk. I don't know, because a number of players weren't willing to talk. But then they all crowded around Devin White, and I started to do the same and try and get video, but I'm looking around the room and I'm like, shit, like there's other players getting ready here who no one is around. I'm like, I would be just firing off to the other spots to talk to guys who aren't surrounded. So I made my way over to the other side of the room. Who was it I was looking at? Like, I forget. Who was it? It might have been SMP or JTS or something. And then right
your cousin JTS?
Yeah, my cousin. But then Winfield walks right beside me, and I kind of like took me a second. I'm just like, hey Antoine, like, could I get a minute, man? And he like looked at me and he was like, all right, man. Like, he he was like, okay. And I was like, cool, man. Like, I was like, I'm like, hey, this is my first interview ever, by the way, dude. So thank you. And he's like, oh yeah, man, let's go. Like, come on. Like, he loved that. So then,
Oh, no way.
Yeah, but
That's so
God,
cool.
I don't
glad
know.
you said that to him.
Yeah, and I did. I was like, I don't give a shit. And this guy, he already saw into my soul. Like, that smile of Antoine Winfield's gonna get you. Like, he's just genuine. I could tell right away. So I wasn't afraid, to belittle myself with the truth.
At any point were you like, hey, I'm 35?
No,
that didn't come up.
No, I gotta bring him.
Yeah.
I thought we were past this, Scott, after the Rob Gronkowski.
No, I don't mean that. I just
episode.
meant because like we're so much older than most of the athletes now, is what I'm saying. And it's like, hey, this is my first one. It's like, yeah, I know. I'm like 12 years older than you also. Anyway, I'm just kidding. But yeah, go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
So then no, I gotta admit, boys, like I had no questions prepared, even though I had like initially wanted to have questions prepared. It was just such a whirlwind. So I had nothing, and I was completely unaware of the procedure to do a one-on-one interview with a dude at a locker room. And when people saw I had him, they had started to come by. I could see them starting to come by, but I froze a little bit. Like, I didn't know what to say. So I just asked him about the injury, how he was feeling. He answered, and then I like awkwardly paused, and I'm like, what else can I say? And I like turned the other way. Like, Jenna Lane came up, and then I was like, you ever been to Canada, Antoine? And I just asked him, I'm like, got any plans to? And like did that little, like, I haven't tweeted that one out, but I think you guys have seen it. So he was just a good dude, though, talking to him. And I wasn't sure of the videoing because he's getting changed. So it's like,
dude, okay. Okay. So the logistics of it, like this sounds honestly terrifying. To just go up, you got your phone, you got to ask a question. 100%. Like, oh my God.
Yeah, and you guys know me. I'm not short on words, but it was incredibly intimidating, and I also didn't want to violate anyone's privacy. Like, that's when I was really like, damn, who let me in here? Like, shit, like I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But Caleb was good.
How
Caleb
nice
was like,
he was.
He was so cool, man. I will eternally always respect that guy. Because think about it, man. He was injured in the game, tried to come back, had to leave the game again because of an injury. He's been battling injuries all year, and they just lost that game. Like, he was feeling like shit. He didn't have to talk to me. He was going to anyway when I asked him, though. And as soon as I told him it was my first interview, he like really was like all about it. So it was just really cool. And I'll always be indebted to him. I'll always remember him. Not like I would have forgot. He's a hell of a player, as we all know.
But still,
Winfield guys. So, and then, man, after that, it fizzled out pretty quick. So that was a total blur being in the locker room after. But really cool. Like, JC Allen's all over the place. I see him there. He's a savvy vet now, good friend of the show. It was cool to meet JC in person also.
That's sweet.
Yeah.
And chop it up with him. So then I just like, Caleb and I were gonna do a video on the field after, but then he was kind of like it's a tiring experience, and he was like, man, fuck that after that game. Like, I don't want to talk about that anymore. In hindsight, I wish we did, because it would have been like on the SI thing, but I was totally cool to get out of there. I was craving a cold beverage.
I bet.
Met up with my cousin John, who'd been rambling around the stadium tailgating with Bengals fans and moving his way throughout the stadium. He's not a Bucs fan, so he'd been hacking it out for like 5 hours solo, hoofing it around.
Wouldn't have been surprised if John was somehow in the owner's box, like giving him advice and shit.
Totally. So boys, that was it. Then we got up out of there, and I had the rest to enjoyed my time tremendously in Tampa. I've been there before, but not quite experienced it. Like, we had a sick hotel right on the water and stuff. So it was an incredible experience, and I'll never forget it. And I look forward to doing it again, many more times, I hope. So especially having been through it once, I will say, like, I really look forward to locker room access and press conference access. Now that I know how it works, now that I know how it goes down, like, I'd be locked and loaded and ready to converse in a more natural way and just have little themes that I would hit on with each player, and then I'd be very, very comfortable next time. So really cool experience.
That's one of those ones where I don't think there's nothing that can prepare you for what that's going to be like the first
you got to get the rep.
And then the leaps and bounds from 1 to 2 is like huge, right? So just to see like how it actually works and what goes on and like where you go and everything must have been so eye-opening and like just to get you prepped for the next one, man. That's sick.
Yeah, and like I got to give it to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Like you know, not only did they like approve me for the credential, like I mean that's just common sense, but they every employee I encountered there, from the person working the elevator to the gate to the people serving food or whatever, like the attendants, they were all like super positive, very kind people, and I quite enjoyed all of my interactions, the moments in between, I'll call them, of the big ones. So it was a really cool experience. Made me proud to be a Buccaneers fan, even more proud to be covering the team, and even more ambitious to do it more so in the future.
Yeah, that's wow, dude. Well, unreal. Like, like you covered. I don't know, not to sound like a kid or whatever. Like you covered a Bucs game. Like what the fuck? We just started doing this, like recording a podcast, and you're asking about writing articles, and now it's through Sports Illustrated and everything. Like it's so sick, dude. Like you should be really proud of you. It's really awesome. So
thank you. And I was repping Bucs banter, boys, for all of us. So
yeah,
it was real cool, man. My family knows. They know how they've had to put up with me yelling at the Bucs games, finding ways to watch them on family vacations wherever we were. So like my family has really reached out, like various of because they understand the significance. So similar to how you guys do. So we got a plug, boys. We got in the building. Operation Dumbo drop, step 1 complete.
Should have never let me in here.
We'll keep the rest of the plan under wraps. Speaking of the plan, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any thoughts in terms of. I do want to just briefly touch on the fact that things are close in the NFC South now. 1 game separates every team in the division after this loss. However, the Bucs are still on top. They can control their own destiny if they win 2 out of 3 of their next games. Their opponents are the Cardinals, the Panthers, and the Falcons. They got to beat 2 of those 3 teams. And if they can't do that, they don't belong in the playoffs anyway. And if they do, then they'll be in a good position. Cardinals, Christmas night. That's the primetime game on Christmas. So
kind of a sweet game time, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing for me, especially with kids. They'll be in bed. Like,
yeah, for sure. And Christmas night, things are winding down in general. So yeah, for sure.
If we're running through the scenarios, right? Like, they do make the playoffs. They play the Cowboys. That is what it is. They play them at home. Whatever. If they don't, or they play the Cowboys or the Eagles, I'm not going to rule out the Cowboys somehow catching the Eagles in all of this.
Well,
even though actually probably not now, right? With that Texans
loss. That Dallas loss.
Yeah, that's it, right?
Any Dallas loss, or any Eagles win, and the Eagles clinch the division. So.
Yeah. So it is. Anyways. And they play this week. If they don't, has that entered your mind yet, Collin? The idea of them not making the playoffs this year and
it is not
draft position and what that could mean for this franchise?
It has not entered my mind.
No,
and it's been a discussion on Twitter. From people, but I just don't engage because there's no question I would rather have shot in the playoffs. Tom Brady, just because of the quarterback, because of Tom Brady being 45 years old and also being Tom Brady. I want any chance I have. I want him in the pewter and red for as many games as possible still. And if that's just 1 playoff game and an unlikely chance of winning, I don't know, but I'm certainly more of a fan in terms of my optimism. Not to say all fans are optimistic about that. A lot of them said they would rather higher draft pick, like a legit good draft pick. Fuck that. You can easily swing and miss on a draft pick. Are you kidding me? Tom Brady could easily run off a couple victories versus a unpredictable NFC as well. So put me in that camp.
I don't think it's even close.
Again. Yeah.
I just you are the draft guy, so the idea of you being in the mix at 9 or 7 is pretty. I don't know.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's alluring.
That's a good angle of it, but no, hell no, no chance. I want to play in the postseason. So
yeah, I'm trying to tempt you, but
I know. So yeah, I'm looking forward to watching this next game. We're gonna see how they respond. Coming off
one of they've had a ton of get right spots, but Arizona without Kyler,
or McCoy. It's Trace
possibly
McSorley.
without McCoy.
Is that right?
Like,
It's McSorley.
It's
McSorley.
McSorley.
Possibly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh my
I
god.
think
all
Colt was
signs point to
limited,
it.
right?
That
I
scares me.
thought
think
Colt
it's-
was limited today. I think he walked
I'm
through
almost-
today.
oh,
I don't know if
maybe.
he played, but he's like a walkthrough at practice today.
All right, I'll just hold on.
Oh.
I just got to text Darlington. Find out.
Oh yeah.
I'm
Put him
kidding.
in the
Yeah, they better win. That's it.
Oh, never mind. Won't play this week. That just came out.
See, that makes
Few hours
shit
ago.
even weirder because they're more expected to win. That scares me more. I'd rather at least have Colt McCoy.
I know.
Yeah. But anyway, boys, I think I'm pretty good. I don't want to go. We don't need to go too much detail about the Cardinals personally. Like, I just think that's a take care of business game, and I expect them to do that. I think I'll predict them to do it handedly coming off this game, but you never know. I wouldn't put anything past this team. I said as much in my recap article. Never put it past this Bucs team to rip their fans' hearts out on national TV. So they did it, and hopefully for the last time this year. We'll see. And on that note, we are going to sign off of episode 70 of the Bucs Banner podcast, where I took you through my behind-the-scenes experience at Raymond James Stadium, covering a Bucs game for the first time in my life for Bucs Game Day and SI.com. It was a hell of a sweet ride, despite the unfortunate loss for the Buccaneers. And make sure you are subscribed to the YouTube channel. Helps us out a lot. And you can catch us audio on any of your basic streaming services where you get your podcast. So please do that. Rate and review. Check out my written work at bucsgameday.com. And we will catch you around. Go Bucs.